Hello, Yvonne.
Hello, Evie. Hello, hello. Hello, everyone else.
Hello. One more Thursday. How are things?
Things are good. Things are good. Well, you know, things are good with the exception of this new laptop that I've already bored you to tears with, but I'm not going to bore everybody else with it. It's just a thing. It's just a tech thing, right?
You can't live with it. You can't live without it. That's the
Absolutely.
point.
Absolutely. It serves me well, so I'm not going to start complaining about it. But yeah, it's just one of those things. But anyway, all that aside, I'm here, you're here, we're alive, we're thriving, and we're going to have another little chat about myth busting. And this week we're looking at the approval trap. And I'd love to say that I've never ever fallen into this trap, but sadly, yes, it has definitely come onto my radar. It was throughout periods of my life. Fortunately, not recently, but it definitely has.
Yeah, mine too. And there are various areas of my life that I have seen that. And it can be because of how you were brought up and what the expectations of the parents are, which is like a big thing, I think. And of course, then, you know, at work and in some other ways. But you know what surprises me is that as much as we say, and I don't know about you, but I do say that I don't care what people think. And we have that sense that, okay, you know, I mean, why should I care what people think when I know I'm doing whatever is right for me, and I'm not harming anybody or whatever, you know. But there is always that little voice at the back of your head, especially, I think, when it is attached to family. But yeah, we can unpack this a bit.
Oh, we are going to unpack some of that, most definitely. Okay, so for those tuning in, the approval trap, you know, the things that we do to gain approval, you know, as if everybody else's opinions and thoughts are more important than our own, and wanting to really ensure that they are seeing. I'll say they're seeing the better of us, because I think we all want to be seen. We always want to put the best of ourselves out there, but we want to ensure that they are feeling best served by us. When we're doing that to the detriment of our well-being, then that is the trap. That becomes the trap. And I think this first phrase, I don't want to let anyone down. I know so many people who have used it, who do use it. I've certainly used it in the past. I don't really tap into it now. And that's not because I want to let anyone down, but it's that sense of I will bring to the table the best of what I can. If I've said yes to something in particular, then I'm going to bring the best of me to the table. If somebody feels let down with the best of what I bring to the table, then that's not on me. You know, I won't react to that. I will respond to it.
Absolutely. No, that is a perfect way of actually dealing with something like this, isn't it? It's like it is almost like guilt in a way, or like it's hidden guilt. Like, what's the point of feeling guilty if you have done all you can to complete, you know, to do something? Feeling guilty is just like saying, oh, you know, whatever has happened shouldn't have happened, and now for some reason I'll change it, or I can't change it, when you really cannot change anything. So the whole point is not really falling into this trap. Is, as you said, if you don't want to let anyone down, do the best you can. And that ties in well with what serves you as well as the other, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because I believe it's like there is that a little bit sense of like people pleasing when you are falling in that trap, and it stops you from maybe doing the best you can as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you end up prioritizing other people's comfort, making sure that, over your own truth, your own needs, your own whatever that thing is. And that for me is just not okay. It's almost like, selling yourself out. Now, again, if I think about, I don't want to let anyone down, I think, who am I letting down? And how am I letting them down? Because we have different maps of the world, we have different expectations, we have different perspectives. So there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that there may be times, if I'm working on something for someone, with someone, where I come in with my way and they have a completely different way, and they feel let down because it doesn't meet their expectations or the way that they would do it, or the blah, 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 blah. And it would be so easy to then think, oh my gosh, I've done it wrong. I've done it badly. I have let them down. I'm an awful human being. And you kind of go down this whole ranting road where actually, hold on a moment. In essence, if we have had a really good and clear conversation up front about what it is that we're doing and what the expectations are and how we want things done, and or how they need to end up looking, even if we're going to do it our own way, then that really shouldn't become an issue. But you cannot decide what somebody else is going to think and feel. You can't. So you could put your best foot forward and they may still feel let down. Is that now on their shoulders or yours?
Well, going back to, control what you can control, definitely you cannot control how somebody else feels. And if they feel that they have been let down by any means, then it is up to them to communicate it clearly, so you know where you're standing and what exactly is going on and what was the trigger for them, and see if you can work with them. If you can't, or if you can explain why you acted the way you acted. So that it also, boils down communication. With the approval, like talking about within the family, approval is a little bit different. But when it comes to business, or when it comes to different types of interactions, then definitely communication is more key than anyone letting any other person down, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think if you're operating from that place, you know that you're constantly in that place where I don't want to let anyone down. I've got to do this, and if it means me staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning, I've got to do this because people are depending on me and I can't let them down. Understanding what's driving that, where did that come from? Where has that demand been on you to make sure you do it, and make sure you do it this way, and do it right, and that everybody else is happy? Where has that come to? I mean, this is what a lot of the myth-busting, it goes back to, where did that come from? What was the origin of that? And really, if it's still controlling you now, what do you need to do to change that? Well, the first thing, which is what this is all about, is awareness. Actually seeing it and thinking, yeah, I kind of go down that road, regularly or once in a while, and actually being able to see it, and then being willing to unpack it and just saying, actually, how is that serving me? Because if you're falling into this, I don't want to let anyone down, chances are it's a little bit like, for me, selling your soul to the devil. Like, as long as everybody else is okay, it doesn't matter if I'm not. And that's that bit when I was saying about prioritizing others' comforts over your truth.
Yeah, but also To me, it's sort of like a repetition of like over committing in a way as well for some reason.
Yeah.
So where is that coming from? Why do you feel that you can do something when that something might make you have to work till like 3 o'clock in the morning so you don't let anyone down? Does it mean that you cannot say no? Where does that all come from? Because as you say, there is so much to unpack with this. It's not just a matter of like, okay, I really am such an honorable person. I don't want to let anyone know. For me personally, integrity is a very big deal.
Yes.
And trust. And of course, this plays very much into that myth that we have. But integrity and trust are again up to us. How we show up is up to us. And it is up to us to say no when we know that this is like overcommitting and that we will not be able, unless we are very discomfortable, deliver. Yeah. So integrity and trust comes from like saying what you can deliver and delivering it, not overcommitting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also just being honest, because, best will in the world, you may be doing something with obviously zero intention of letting anyone down, but things go off the path, things happen, things change. And again, for me, that's about go back to communicating, because that for me is the cornerstone. The key is, if you think this is not going the way that it's meant to, I need it to, the other person is expecting or people are expecting, I need to impart that. I need to have a conversation about that. Don't wait until it's gone completely off rail and then you're really riddled with guilt that you've just done an awful, awful job. Stuff happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as long as you are truthful and understand what that means for you and for others, then it is easier to like step up and say, okay, maybe if you have overcommitted, or even if you just committed on something that you don't really, you cannot deliver, because as you said, things change. It's not like everything is written in stone and we can not change. I mean, I love the fact that planning is great, because planning allows you to change things as well. If you rigidly plan, then something is wrong. At some point, you're going to suffer for it. So the whole idea is to be flexible as well. And why not? I mean, who says not? And I think that comes from family. That comes from the way that you were expected to deliver at a certain level at all times, no matter what. And there was a lot of reprimanding, or like, I want to say looking down at you, but it's not that from families, like disappointment. That's what it is. It's more like
that next one.
hard disappointment that, your caregivers or the people that you really look up to, they feel so disappointed. And I think that's where that stems from.
Yeah.
As you said, awareness is key to get over that, because it cannot mean the same thing that it meant like when we were younger or children or whatever.
Yeah. And again, and I think it's so much of this is about us as adults really being mindful about the language we use when we're speaking to others, whether it's our children, our colleagues, our partners, whatever. Be really mindful that we are not, almost like choking them into meeting my expectations, must be done this way or else, because that's the kind of stuff that lets this, gosh, I can't let them down, because if I let them down, yes, there's disappointment. If I let them down, we'll probably end up arguing. If I let them down, whatever that tie on is, that other extension, that other piece. So I think a lot of this is about the language that we use, that when we are asking somebody to do something, cut them some slack and ask with grace as opposed to a demand, so that they don't feel the pressure of thinking, I can't let them down, I can't let them down, I can't let them down. Because most people don't want to let anybody down. That's the reality. Most people don't want to let people down. They don't. As a natural call, right? However, what else is on their plate? What else are they dealing with? And sometimes we don't know what people are dealing with, like on a personal level or professional level. We don't know. So for me, it's as somebody, if somebody is doing something and they feel like, oh, they can't let me down, like they're under that kind of pressure, like, oh, I can't let Yvonne down because I said that I would do it by then. I will always, my go-to when I've asked people to do anything anyway is, and just let me know if anything like comes unstuck. Just let me know.
Absolutely.
Because at the point of it being unstuck, we can probably do something about it.
And it is like within our work that we are faced with this very often, isn't that right? Because by definition, our work is to hold people accountable in some form or way.
Yes.
But it's one thing to hold somebody accountable, it's another thing to just rigidly, expect them to complete or do exactly what they said by the time they said whatever. Things do change. And like creating that space for them sometimes for our work, I think it's like the only space they have that they can sort of be less rigid. And that is the space that they can use to learn how it is not to be rigid as well, and to honor their needs and their wants at that particular moment in time. So it is very important.
Definitely. And that leads us, I guess, into the second phrase. They'll be disappointed in me, which you mentioned, and I agree with you. I think I know that from a personal experience, that phrase, they'll be disappointed in me, like disappointment is like a sting in the tail if you're the recipient of it, right? And nobody wants, again, I don't think most people want to disappoint somebody else. That said, if the disappointment is for the betterment of, we have to be open to that. And again, not have that rigidity, like, they're going to be disappointed in me. Sometimes people are going to be disappointed in you. So for me, there's a little bit of, do you know what? Sometimes people are. Whether it's something you say, something you do, how you show up, sometimes people are going to be disappointed, but that's their disappointment, not yours.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? I think that it's at this moment that you have to let go. You need to understand that their own actions, reactions are theirs, and let them feel them the way they need to. But that doesn't mean that we have to buy into that feeling or to accept it as a fact. At the end of the day, once again, communication is key. And if they feel disappointed and they want to discuss it, fine. If they don't, well, again, what can you do? But when it comes to younger people, I think that this type of environment where disappointment plays a role, because you see also that guilt trip, disappointment, that's what it is in essence. You make somebody feel guilty for not doing what you expected them to do. And for the younger generations, this is, or the young people, not younger generation, I think we all felt it when we were younger, or some of us, or most of us, I don't know, but I definitely I did, is that you are trying, like, you will try once, you will try twice, you will try 10 times, not to disappoint somebody, the 11th time, you really won't care. And you won't care in a way that it might even be harmful or hurtful for you, just because you want to rebel against it. So for the parents out there, it might be something to consider, something to, give space for themselves to think about, because everyone has a reason for doing things, and it's better if we understand the reason rather than be disappointed that things did not happen the way we wanted them. Whenever there are other people involved, it's very likely that we're not going to get exactly what we want, because everybody has their own ideas, their own opinions, their own way of doing things. And it's okay.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And I think disappointment also really ties in that fear of rejection. Because if I disappoint them, they're not going to want me, they're not going to ask me to do anything, they're not going to want me to do it, they're not going to want me in their circle. That all of that stuff that comes up, which is, then I have no worth, then I have no value almost. So again, being really careful about, when you've heard that phrase, or when you've heard those kind of demands that have put you in that space of, they'll be really disappointed in me. And I've taken exams, or, when we're talking about an example, is exams, I wonder how many young people don't want to take their exam papers home because they didn't do as well as their parents had hoped, expected, demanded, etc. And maybe even for themselves, that they didn't do as well as they wanted. But I don't think anyone should be made to feel less than because of that. It's just like, the minute you start saying, well, I'm really disappointed in you, that just takes away so much of the true essence of the person. When we talk about positive intelligence, and the true essence, the ultimate essence is love, if you like.
Yeah.
Where is the love in telling somebody you're disappointed in them? And keep on doing that until they believe that actually I have no worth, I have no value, they're always disappointed in me, I don't cut it, then they just get caught up in those constant stories. And that goes with them into adulthood. And that plays out in their relationships, that plays out in their professional life, that, no. And I'm saying no, because I'm like, we need to be so careful about the word that we speak into the people in our lives. We need to be so careful what we say and be really clear about what we really want to say, what's the true meaning, and don't go to these quick, oh, well, I'm just really disappointed in you. Because actually there's something else you could say that really much more supportive and that will help them to step up, not step down.
But that's the thing. Because I don't believe anyone is deliberately wanting to make somebody feel unworthy or to make somebody feel that they're not enough. It's just that they feel that with this, it's like the carrot and the stick kind of thing. Like with more stick, you're going to get better. So, let me not give you too much carrot. How we could say this. But the truth is that nowadays, people are way more informed and aware of how language affects people, especially young people, as opposed to, when we were growing up or our parents were growing up. So it is the time to change the narrative, to change the way we talk to each other, and to elevate people rather than, put them down because X, Y, and Z reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
What matters at the end of the day?
Exactly. And you know what? There's been some great studies, and I'm not going to try and name them because I don't know the names of them, but I think one was to do with a musical thing. And, they kind of had the teacher was teaching, and none of these kids were apparently brilliant at the instruments that they chose. But when he spoke power into the children, who weren't particularly great at the instrument they were playing, they were uplifted and motivated to do better because he spoke power into them. He pointed out what they were doing really well as opposed to what they weren't. And this is what I mean is the power of the words. When
Absolutely.
we keep on pointing out what's wrong, what they haven't done, what's that stays. That's like a little, a little dagger that goes in and it stays. And then that, takes away the confidence, that just takes away that sense of self. And so there's so much to be said about, we're myth-busting for the sake of the people who are perhaps still living with these phrases in their lives. But I think it's also important to say to us all, really think about the language that you're using when you're speaking to people, and that's professional or personal. Mm-hmm. Be really careful about what you're saying, because not just for the lasting impact, well, it is for the lasting impact, and not just the lasting impact on that person, because that may become something that they take on board and they pass on again, right? So for me, I don't know, this is just what's coming up for me today. We don't script this, so it's just what's coming up for me today. It's really this thing about our language. What are we saying to each other? What are we, when we use these phrases of, you've let me down, or I'm really disappointed in you, what are we doing to that person? And how does that leave us feeling? Because there is that little bit that, if that makes you feel powerful, then you probably need to go and have a little look at what that is.
That means, yeah, absolutely.
Right. And if you haven't ever thought about it, then now might be a really good time to.
100%. And, the other thing is that if you are using this type of language, think, how do you use this type of language to yourself as well? Because it is likely that you will be using it for yourself too. Yeah. And the like, I am disappointed in you can be something like I'm not good enough, or I am not able to do something, as opposed to, and that becomes disappointment to self. And that is not serving anyone. So it is not, it's about the use of the language for both internally and externally, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It makes so much sense, like for the people that are working on themselves, that are like more likely that they are going to be more attuned with the language they use towards others.
Yes.
Because the first thing we say is like, mind your language towards yourself. So yeah, words are important.
Yes, they really are. And, and for anyone who has had this script, they'll be disappointed in me playing out, and therefore they have like pushed themselves, over the edge almost, probably to meet everybody else's expectations. Understand that somebody else's reaction doesn't define your worth. It doesn't define your worth. No. And if somebody is disappointed, I'm not going to say that that's not going to hurt, because it probably will if somebody says it to you. But that doesn't detract from who you are. That's one person and one person's experience for whatever reason. And maybe it's because they had expectations that were way off the scale, and maybe hadn't even shared that with you. But it doesn't really matter. The whole point is it's somebody else's expectation. Let them go and deal with that. Don't take it on board, because this is what we do. We take it all on board. And every time we take it on board, we just shrink. We shrink. And we shrink. It might, have a little book called, Shrink to Fit. We shrink to fit. But fit what? What are we fit for at the end of all the shrinking, right? Yeah. Words.
Oh my God, that is very powerful. Fit. Shrink to fit.
Shrink to fit.
Oh my God, yeah, that's...
Yeah. That's what it is. It's what happens, right?
Yeah.
We shrink to fit. We shrink to fit somebody else's. Actually, it's somebody else's narrative we're shrinking to fit, but their narrative becomes our narrative. And all the time we are just shrinking. We become smaller and we shrink to fit. And at this point, we have to say, what is it that I fit? Now that I've shrunk, what am I fitting? What am I fitting into? Am I now just at the beck and call of everyone? Because that's what I've allowed myself to do, to just shrink that much. And actually, no, we are all here with a voice, with a gift, with some knowledge, some degree of knowledge that is meant to be out there in the world. And it's just because somebody doesn't appreciate it and is disappointed in the way that you have come across, well, that's one person out of, I don't know how many people there are on the planet, but there's a lot, right? So, again, you have to say, okay, is this mine to carry? And even when it comes from family, and I know it's more difficult in a family situation, we have the right to question that with curiosity. Well, what about that? Why would they, what is that disappointment all about? And is it because, well, I didn't get to do what you're getting to do, therefore I expect you to do that much better?
Yeah, it is likely.
Yeah,
it is likely.
Can be a thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
time has come.
Time has come indeed. Time has come indeed. Yeah, and I would love to hear any thoughts, any comments, anything that anyone has to say around these, whether you have been the recipient of the kind of language that has led you to think or worry about letting people down all the time or disappointing people all the time, and how you have broken from that, if you have broken from it, or if it's still a challenge. And even for people who have used language that they now, on reflection, think, probably that wasn't the best way to have phrased that, and I can see how that could have been damaging. Gosh, I'm sure if I sit here long enough and I go back and I think about my son and I had to unpack everything that I ever said to him, I'm sure some of that stuff would definitely come up. And how do we make that better? How do we go forward in a much better, healthier and helpful way?
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm going to leave my note on.
I think that's great. I believe that we need to mind our language towards ourselves and others, and understand that words are important, and especially when we use them towards people we really care about. We need to be mindful, and I don't think that anyone doesn't care about their children. So that is an important bit.
Yeah.
So
sure.
With that said,
at Permission to Thrive, we are here to help you break free from the narratives that keep you caged.
Grace, not grind. Thank you, Yvonne.
Another week. Absolute pleasure, as always, Evie. Thank you to anyone who's watched live or watches it on the replay. Again, love your comments. And we'll see you again next week, Thursday.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.